Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of your breakfast show on Leadership Television inside Nigeria. My name is Unifred, your host on the program. Today is Tuesday, April 29, 2025. All too soon, the month is drawing to a close. And on this first segment of the show, we'll look at what the papers are saying, including Nigeria's most influential leadership. Let's go there. Let's see what leadership has in its menu. Still talking defections, it says Delta defections, Tinubu APC firm grip on inherited PDP structure. Grant waiver to defectors, say you are not tenants in APC. Shetima Ganduje receive Obore Wori Okowa, others into party. Defections exaggerated, won't deter coalition, coming from the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. Delta defections, Tinubu APC firm grip on inherited PDP structure. Grant waiver to defectors, say you are not tenants in APC. Shetima Ganduje receive Obore Wori Okowa, others into party. Defections exaggerated, won't deter coalition. El-Rufai. Of course, yesterday there was report, we saw live broadcast of the welcome home party by APC structures to welcome in Delta State Governor, his immediate Okowa, the commissioners, and all other political appointees who defected to APC yesterday. Still on leadership newspaper, government key 10 at Benue drinking joint, adopt full CBT by 2026. Federal government directs WAEC NECO. Adopt full CBT, that is computer-based test by 2026. Federal government directs WAEC NECO. CBT, it will be recorded, is already being used by JAM for its UTME. 37 blind candidates sit for JAM in Bauchi 2027. INEC asks NAS to expedite action on legal framework. And we move towards the masthead of leadership. Poverty worsened under you in Anambra. Sanwo-Olu blast Obi. Poverty worsened under you in Anambra. Sanwo-Olu blast Obi. Of course, there's been a face-off between the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and the Labour Party presidential candidate for 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi. Mr. Peter Obi had actually said in Hopkins College University that poverty has worsened, and it was in response to that Sanwo-Olu is responding to Peter Obi. On the business bus, we have Discos must be accountable for 112 electricity deaths in 2024. This is coming from CJN, that is the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekerekun, has urged the judiciary to hold electricity distribution companies, Discos, accountable for the 112 electricity-related deaths and 95 injuries recorded in 2024. Speaking at the opening of the 2025 National Seminar on Regulations in the Electricity Power Sector for Judicial Officers organized by the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission (NEC) in collaboration with the National Judicial Institute (NJI), Justice Kekerekun emphasized the urgent need for stricter legal oversight of the sector. Coming from a covered news story on the business buzz of leadership this Tuesday, Discos must be accountable for 112 electricity deaths in 2024. Coming from CJN. Another masthead of leadership, court sentences Osinachi's husband to death by hanging. Bandits abduct Kaduna district head's wife, daughter. The story is on page 7 of leadership. Why that of Osinachi's husband story is on page 19 of leadership. From the cover, we move inside to page 3, where we have our stand. Today's stand is on the urgency of implementing the pension scheme. The urgency of implementing the pension scheme. Recently, the National Pension Commission (PENCOM) disclosed that as of December 2024, only 11 out of the nation's 36 states and the FCT had fully implemented the Contributory Pension Scheme (CPS). We recall that 21 years ago, in 2004, the Nigerian government enacted the Pension Reform Act (PRA), which presumably revolutionized pension administration in the country by introducing the Contributory Pension Scheme. We go towards the conclusion. In our opinion, the task ahead of PENCOM and other critical players is to ensure complete onboarding of all states and the FCT into the CPS. Fundamentally, there is no justification for the state government's cold attitude towards fully implementing this plausible scheme. PENCOM must also take all necessary measures to ensure complete and unconditional compliance with the PRA by all labor employers, whether public or private. That also concludes today's excerpts we just took from today's stand, the urgency of implementing the pension scheme. From our stand, we move to the back page of leadership, where we have Tuesday column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. Today, Aliyu is writing on Nigeria needs a functional state. And the quote from that column: the importance of a functional state is not a novel idea. Quote from Nigeria needs a functional state. Tuesday column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. From there, we move to Ghana must go. Ghana must go. Dele Momodu says Tinubu can't win in free, fair elections. And Ghana must go asks, you conduct it. That's a good one. It's on that note we conclude review of Leadership newspaper this Tuesday. For more, log into www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, we move to the next paper on our lineup, still talking defections, that is Vanguard. It says defection to APC, Oborewori Okowa created political tsunami not seen before, Tinubu. Defection to APC, Oborewori Okowa created political tsunami not seen before, Tinubu. More governors will move, Oborewori. Our decision for good of debtors, Okowa. Defection of high-profile politicians, governors widely exaggerated, has no electoral value. Coming from Erufai. Still on Vanguard newspaper, Delta communities expose kidnappers' hideout. Unlawful trial of Nnamdi Kanu and affront to rule of law, natural justice, IPOB. We move towards the masthead. Above it, we have PIA implementation comes under knock as experts speak holes in NNPCS operations. The story is on page 19 of Vanguard. PIA, that is Petroleum Industry Act, implementation comes under knock as experts speak holes in NNPCS operations. WAEC NECO will begin CBT exams by 2026. Federal government, still the same story on leadership earlier before it. Conclave starts May 7. Cardinals say new pope must tackle abuse. Osinachi, White Court sentenced husband to death, is a trendy story since the news broke yesterday. Of course, both papers, some of the papers we have on our lineup, have it on their cover. From Vanguard, we bring that review to a close while we move on to other papers we have on our lineup, still talking defections, and that is Daily Sun. Daily Sun says mass defection to APC looms. Party chieftains say more governors, over 40 opposition NAS members said to join ruling party. Leading story today on Daily Sun. Reps caucus backs Enugu Airport concession. Benue CP reads riot act as police confirm 4 dead in bar shooting. Akpabio seeks unity among Global South at Rabat Parliamentary Forum. Tinubu describes Oborewori Okowa Delta PDP defection to APC as political tsunami. Governor predecessor celebrates. The story continues on page 6 of Daily Sun. We move towards the masthead of Daily Sun, where we have Naira redesign, court strikes at 1 billion Naira suit against Buhari, Emefiele, CBN. The story just beneath the masthead of Daily Sun. And the last story gracing the cover of Daily Sun is the one beside the masthead. Sanwo-Olu blasts Obi over his poverty index rating of APC government at Johns Hopkins University. Says Anambra had worse poverty under ex-Labour Party presidential candidate when he was governor. This story is on page 6 of Daily Sun. It's also on that note we conclude review of Daily Sun newspaper review this Tuesday as we move over to the Punch. The Punch is next on our lineup. The Punch leading story is different. It's not talking defections this Tuesday. It's move on to NNPCL. It says NNPCL under fire as $897 million Warri refinery revamp flops. NNPC under fire as $897 million Warri refinery revamp flops. Warri refinery shutdown drags on since January 25. Port Harcourt refinery struggles at under 40% production capacity. On the cover of the Punch, we have pictures and the story underneath that is massive power outage, grand strains, internet in Spain, Portugal, France. Is a story that is actually unheard of because it is told of how there's 24 power supply in Western world. However, yesterday action contradicted that massive power outage, grand strains, internet in Spain, Portugal, France. We have the story for that. We have the pictures for that story. Bono resettles 300,000 ex-Boko Haram terrorists. The story is on page 56 of the Punch. Bono resettles 300,000 ex-Boko Haram terrorists. That is almost 20% of the population of Borno State. Emefiele loses bid to reclaim 753 duplex Abuja estate. U.S. envoy meets Miete Allah leaders on security challenges. U.S. envoy meets Miete Allah leaders on security challenges. That takes us to the story just by the masthead. Tension among Sunny Ade's children over music legends' whereabouts. The story is on page 57 of the Punch. There's reports that he's not picking calls and all efforts to reach him has proved abortive. Tension among Sunny Ade's children over music legends' whereabouts. From there, we'll move to the stories about the masthead. Papa elections guided by Holy Spirit, not politics, at Bishop. Diaspora voting, INEC pushes for constitutional amendment. Hurricane Tinubu, more governors will join APC. Ganduje boasts. The story is on page 2 of the Punch. And that is where also we conclude the front page review of the headline stories. As we move to the next paper on our lineup, which incidentally is the last to be reviewed on this first segment of the show, and that is the Guardian. Guardian also has different story on as its main cover. It says institutional fees, 51 varsities orders embroiled in illegal deductions from students' loans. Few weeks ago, there was report as a corruption has actually is dodging that NEFOD loan. Institutional fees, 51 varsities orders embroiled in illegal deductions from students' loans. Extra charges institutions make on each NEFOD applicant. We have the symbols of the universities captured for illustrations under that leading story. We have different levies imposed by different institutions on that NEFOD for each NEFOD applicant. Still on the cover of the Guardian newspaper, court orders Aisha Achimogu to honor EFCC's invitation. Customs receives 6 cargo scanners, targets 87 in 20 years. 2027, INEC sees law to strip president of power to appoint Rex. El-Rufai Lukman maintain opposition as APC receives Oboro Wori Okowa. We also have the picture of the welcome party by the Vice President Shettima for Delta defectors yesterday in Delta. Husband of late gospel singer Osinachi sentenced to death by hanging. That takes us to the stories just beneath the masthead of the Guardian. Alleged $1 billion fraud, suspected Cybers promoter surrenders to EFCC. Ohaneze urges Tinubu to accept peace move by pro-Biafra agitators. JAMB Peter Obi bicker over early exam schedules. The story is on page 5 of the Guardian, and that is where we'll conclude review of front headline stories on the Guardian this Tuesday. For more, log into www.guardian.ng. It's also on this note we conclude the first half of this newspaper review. Don't forget we have second half of the program coming in shortly with our guest already in the studio. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Leadership TV for God and country.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country. Be part.
Welcome back. The program is Inside Nigeria, your breakfast from Leadership Television. My name is Unified Global once again, and of course, I have my Tuesday guest in the studio. Is a public affairs analyst, Benedict Agunloni. Thank you so much. You were sorely missed last week, by the way. How have you been? Yes, good to have you. A lot has happened since last week, talking about the mass gay defections of one's 27 years of PDP rule in Delta State. And we all witnessed, even yesterday, they went to do official welcoming into the APC fold, talking about the governor, the immediate past governor, the commissioners, and all the political appointees of the state government. Now, is Nigeria not eating towards a one-party state?
The answer is no. Okay. We are not a one-party people, and we're not going to get to one-party state. People are going to move. In 1999, the presidential election was between two parties, even though there were three parties that have at least 6 governors elected on their platform. So to a large extent, you will know that movement would always be possible because we are people in the center. None of our party is a right-wing party, neither is anyone a left-wing. IBB defined us as a little to the left and a little to the right. And that's who we are in reality. We are not to any extreme. So to a large extent, therefore, there will be continuous flow. There are states where the APC people on ground will not welcome the PDP. So there and across political divides, even across the world. In US, you have the Democrat state, you have the Republican state, and you have what you call the swing states.
Yes, you have the
so there would always be the swing people
states, yes,
who will neither be here nor there. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are swingers. We are generally swingers. Very few states can fundamentally be stated to have belonged permanently to one side.
All right, thank you so much. Now, there are speculations that maybe these defections are not really seemingly what they seem, because there are reports or allegations of that some of them are being coerced into.
When you say coercion, what is the coercion? The practical reality is this: some states have placed their opposition in a manner that had not been good enough for their own people. I always tell people, in the current climate, Akwa Ibom should be a nodal and example state for the nation. That's the state where the Senate president is from and is an APC person. The governor is PDP. But I've never seen the governor and the Senate president contend or disagree publicly. Rather, You see the governor coming to Abuja and the Senate president, even though in opposition party, welcome him and then go as leader of the people of Akwa Ibom to see the president. Because the primary purpose of governance should be for the people. And I think that in Akwa Ibom, they've tried to marry that and marry it well. So if the people of Delta think that, look, swinging to the other side will serve the purpose of their people better, I don't think it is a crime and I don't think it's coercion. If there are people that should be coerced, why is Sule Lamido not in APC? He's had a running battle with the EFCC and I'm not sure it is over. He's no longer in government, but he has not crossed. Ayo Fayose had not come to the PDP, to the APC as well. There are so many others who are still out there, who had issues with the EFCC, had issues with this, had issues with that, but they have not crossed over to the APC. So I think we should leave the issue of coercion and know that majority of our politicians are swinger politicians and they will shift. The clarity is that in 1999 when we started, the AD had the presidential candidate, the APP, as they are called then, had the presidential candidate, the PDP
CBC.
had. No, the PDP had. Those were the three. But at some point, the AD decided to align with the APP. With the APP, they retained the APP name for the presidential election and put in there the AD candidate. So when you look at people on that side of the divide, they have always been ready to go into alliance for collaboration in the purpose of fostering their better laws at the center. So when they came together again in 2015, it was easy for them to drop their name. But the PDP had never been ready
For any
to
alliance.
drop their name for it. No, they are ready for alliance, but their kind of alliance is assimilation. Come to us, we will take you. But we are not going to change our structure or our name for you.
Umbrella to cover.
We will not change our structure or our name for you. So that is the difference. But on the other side, if you come, we can work together. We can collapse our structure for you if that will make working better. So I think that temperament on either side of the divide, it's noticeable and has always been there.
All right, thank you so much. Now, still talking politics. 2027 is still a long way up, but we are having politicians right now, just 2 years to go, still now on the verge of forming alliances and talking politics. This, which is violating the Electoral Act.
Well, they are not campaigning; they are forming alliance. We did not say that there
But
cannot be.
Campaigns.
We did not say that there cannot be politicking. Expression of interest is not, in my opinion, equal to campaign. Have you seen anybody show what the ballot paper will look like and what party you should vote for? Individuals are expressing their interest. Individuals are being promoted. That's what I can see. As of today, whether Rufai will be on the ballot or not, we don't know. But he's already talking. Whether Obi was going to remain in Labour or not, we don't know. But he was there on the TV station, Arise, recently, analyzing the nation and saying a lot of things, what he will do if he were to be the president and all that. So in reality, campaign has been on all sides, whether silent, whether subtle, or whether direct. Individual candidates are promoting their interest and trying to reach the people. That's not equivalent to political parties making campaign. However, when your oppositions are knocking, if you are also the ruling party, as the people in charge of the party, they will be stupid to keep quiet.
All right, thank you so much. Now, moving away from politics, let's discuss oil, and that is the leading story on the Punch newspaper this Tuesday. NNPCL under fire as $897 million Warri refinery revamp flops. Remember when we talked about rehabilitation of the refineries? There were reports here and there, muted though, that they were not properly done. However, the then JMD Milekari was contradicting all that, debunking all those reports. And now, like the saying goes, the chicken has come home to roost. So, Warri refinery shutdown drags on since January 25. Port Harcourt refinery struggles at under 40% production. And in another news, same story on Vanguard, it says PIA implementation comes under knock as experts pick holes in NNPCL's operation.
Well, is the operation of the NNPCL perfect? I would not say yes,
It has never
because
been.
a lot of things about them have been under secrecy.
Yes, so
now you also need to understand the side where, or the view of people like me for Mele Kyari. He used to be a unionist. Unionists are difficult to deal with when you give them government.
Position.
He was possibly what you call the senior staff in the oil sector. He was very active there as a middle level manager.
Yes, in 1991.
So having been very active in the union, he knows a number of how to defend and how to address and how to, I would call, advocate his position. Now rising through the rank to then become the biggest man in an environment where whatever any outsider say, they say you get your facts wrong in an opaque industry.
Yes.
So you expect that a lot will be covered. However, with the new GMD, or with the new head of the organization, you would expect that he is coming from the private sector. Yes, he has also been within the oil industry, but he has grown up in an environment where he couldn't be too unionized. So it's more of a technocrat on that side. So I think that now that, of course, the issues are coming up, the new board has their responsibility to fix whatever needed to be fixed. And I would be expecting the president to look in that direction and give them a deadline, 100 days or 200 days. Get these things resolved or be ready to go. It should be target, there should be sanction, there should be punishment. And for those who have been involved and are ensured that these things were not properly done, they should be sanctioned. There should be consequences for their action. Is it that wrong people were trained? Is it that wrong staffs were deployed? But for those who have been involved in the failure, if they are still in the system, they need to be sanctioned, and some of them may necessarily even need to be replaced.
Right.
Sometimes you have people who are not trainable. So it's not about how much you train them, it's not about how much facilities you provide for them. It is that they are not fit for the job, and you need to get the right people to get the job done.
Yes, my question is the fact that how come successive governments have not been able to really tackle the issues of NNPC, because their activities, operations are shrouded in opaque manner.
Well,
at the time, they were not even remitting funds.
Like we said, up until now, majority of people you have seen rise to the top have been within the industry.
Yes.
Maybe the current MD, apart from, I think, the professor from UI then.
Tam David West.
Apart from Tam David West,
have,
majority of the other people
who became OPEC representative.
Majority of the other people had always been within. No, the guy who went to OPEC was in tin. Okay, Rewan Lukman. When you check, you realize that because they are insiders, or when you bring in an outsider, the outsider is not within the industry. Right? A professor coming from the university knew a lot, agreed. But then when you are not involved with day-to-day running of the oil sector, you are likely not going to have certain information. So people can still make some things opaque for you, and you will take decision. But I think for the current board, virtually everybody in the board at the moment had been involved in the oil sector outside the NNPC. So they have felt the supervision of the NNPC. They have seen the NNPC operation. They have worked in other countries. So there is basis to compare. So I want to believe that if the current board cannot fix NNPC, then the government should begin to think of scrapping the NNPC. Because if they cannot, I'm not sure anybody going forward will be able to fix it.
Okay. The PIA, that is Petroleum Industry Act, came into being about 4 or 5 years ago under Buhari, which was signed into law. However, it has not been able to achieve the much desired expectations, because prior to the signing into law of the Petroleum Industry Bill, many experts said, oh, this is the best thing that could be a law that could happen to the oil industry. But we have not seen much of that. Why is this?
Well, when how do we call it now? Because in Abacha regime, we were talking about deregulation and guided deregulation. So where there is, you are deregulating this, but there is a guide.
Yes.
Then when the guide is not guided, how then do you guide what is down there?
Yes.
So a lot is still with the NNPCL,
Yes.
and if the NNPCL is not functioning properly, if the regulators in NMDPRA and the downstream are not yet living up to their expectation, you do not expect that the PIA will be able to perform effectively, because when you have underlying condition under which this is supposed to perform, in science in physics we talk about conditions that are necessary and sufficient. So you have put the necessary sufficient in place, but those things that are sufficient for the reaction or for the action to take place are not yet there, then you will not see the reaction. So that's why the effect and the impact of the PIA is not fully out there.
Thank you so much. Well, time is really against us. If not, we would have been talking about the net fund, the corruption that has entered into the net fund. However, we'll leave that for some other time. This is where we draw the curtain on today's Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Gbebo, and I also have the pleasure of having my guest today in company is a public affairs analyst, Benedict Agunoye. Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome.
So I look forward to having you same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Winifred Gbebo once again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.